Project management is not just a job. It can almost be a calling. You are bringing yourself and your structured way of thinking, your knowledge of your industry or specialty area to make the most of your company or organizational resources. And resources are precious. Therefore, project management is a really important profession and skill. Needs are great out there for you and your colleagues who are specialists in planning and tracking and controlling your projects, delivering within scope and time and cost. These are all resources that are needing to be managed within your organization, community, government, etc. Because the needs are great for new creations, whether it be renovations of existing structures, whether it be new civil engineering projects, whether it be new software projects, new design and delivery of usable items within business or society. We need to make it possible for people not only to innovate, but to make something out of useful, valuable innovations. Solutions that are produced and envisaged need to be not only required at scale, but they need to be deployed at pace. Now, every one of those deployments, if they're in a different context, even though the same product, is a project and therefore needs project management. Change is knocking at the door. It is insistent and persistent. Change is with us all of the time, and challenges abound. You're always having to overcome new obstacles, which could present new opportunities if managed correctly. Changes to your project as technologies move on, designs improve, needs change during the life of your project. This is why I say emphatically, project management matters, and that's why I know you're doing this course. This very clear need for better run projects came out of discussions at the highest level of the United Kingdom government when they looked around them at the amount of wasted resources and lost time and delivery of projects with products that weren't really needed or were not good value for money at the end of the day. And they established this PRINCE2 method, which was really titled that as projects in controlled environments, fairly self-explanatory, where they were trying to have structures in place, better control, stronger governance, improved stewardship of the public resources, and a set of standards that could be understood by everybody managing public sector projects. This, of course, then spilled over into the private sector and has become a standard across much of the Western world. If we're going to try and deliver projects at pace and scalable and integrated and quality and within all sorts of tolerances in order to innovate and meet the needs of the current and the future, then we need to know the standards and the delivery and the background and the achievements of project and program managers that we're talking to. That's one of the reasons that certification matters. Certification does give us a generally common language, no matter whether you're doing your PRINCE2 certification, your PMP, your Agile PM, your project office, your portfolio and program management certifications. What you do when you do certification is you demonstrate your own commitment to the profession, you demonstrate your commitment to your personal growth, you demonstrate to people that you're serious, you put yourself in a place where you may be considered for additional responsibility, for promotion, for movement to a different department, or you may be looking to move to a different company, and when you've been looking at ads, you see the need for certification. It matters, and part of it is also that it can motivate you. I have to assume that several of these reasons are the reason that you have selected to enroll on this course. So what we're going to do is look at the basic framework of PRINCE2, This is not a course to get you to pass your exams or to convince you to certify or to give you a lot of detail on how to manage a project, but it's to look at the 7 principles, the 7 themes, and the 7 processes in a way that makes it all very clear, very simple, in ways that the manual doesn't necessarily do, or when you hear people talking about it, it doesn't all hang together, but this will enable you to do that, to have the conversations and have it hang together. As we're starting into the course, again, let's just think for a moment about the PRINCE2 manual goes from the beginning being principles of theory and then themes of theory and then processes with names that don't make sense to you and sound like you have to learn a whole new language. Whereas I think about starting with processes, because you already understand the processes, the phases in a project, the life cycle. You've just called them something else. Probably you know them as initiation and planning and executing and monitoring and controlling and closing off a project. And if you started processes in PRINCE2, you're just understanding that they call them something different, and they add in a couple of checks and balances or different focus that isn't in the method or the life cycle that you have learned by osmosis or by studying it. If you understand then what the process is, the flow of a PRINCE2 project, then you get to think about what are the themes that run throughout that project. What are the activities and the knowledge and the practices that you apply throughout a project that brings about its success? Those are the themes, and below that, the bedrock or the foundation of this house that you have built is the principles. These practices and ways of working and thinking that you know from experience are trademarks of successful project managers. If I ask you to write down some of those principles without looking at the manual, you might come up with 10 or 11 that you think are really important foundations. And then if you come and look at the PRINCE2, you might find your PRINCE2 7 amongst your 10 or 11. And so it's much easier for you to remember these 7 principles in the context. Having given you that perspective and that way of thinking about PRINCE2 and how you're going to study it, you're going to see that this course is structured in the sequence of principles, themes, and processes. But by giving you this upside down, downside up perspective, you might choose to go and start further down in the course of looking at the processes and making sure you get your head around what they call these different steps, these different processes which fit within the overall PRINCE2 process and satisfy all of the requirements of a PRINCE2 process. You'll find out that you're just adding some things in and calling them something slightly different, and you will have learned the PRINCE2 processes. The same as I mentioned before in the diagram. The themes run throughout the project, and the themes make sense when you look at them within the whole life cycle. And then the principles, you get to them as the foundation and you go, yes, that makes sense. I know what's involved in managing a project life cycle. I know what has to run throughout that project life cycle. And I understand now very clearly why the business justification is so important, why I can avoid problems and risks and issues by following and learning from experience and so forth. So you can go with the flow of the course, which is in the flow of the manual, or you can actually go and jump ahead and start with the processes and then come back to themes or principles. It all depends on how you prefer to learn.